What's going on, everybody? C4 here. Welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to be answering a question, making more so of a list, but answering a question that I've been getting hit up with a bunch over the last week, 2 weeks or so. Like about a week and a half ago, I believe there started to be rumors that Doug Pederson was on the hot seat. And then there was other rumors, there's just rumors, nothing's been confirmed, that Doug may not even get fired. He just will straight up resign at the end of the season. That's still kind of crazy. Kind of a quick turnaround from the Super Bowl year, but you can just see the on-field product right now for the Philadelphia Eagles is not good. And I remember, back when Jeffrey Lurie hired Chip Kelly, he became very, very apparent that he wants to be an owner that's always on the front foot, that's always progressive, that's always innovative. And it didn't work with Chip Kelly, but then when you brought in someone like Doug Pederson, you saw the immediate results with that all-star coaching staff that he had in 2017, dominated the league, ended up winning a Super Bowl. But since then, that special thing that Jeffrey Lurie looks for in a head coach has not been there with Doug Pederson. Even though we've made the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years, it's been, crawling our way in, not innovating our way in, not dominating our way in. It's like we were able to find a way to win the NFC least a couple times. And sure, injuries have had a part of that, but I mean, there comes a point in time where, we weren't having these injuries with Chip Kelly. And I know we meme the Chip Kelly thing with the smoothies and stuff, but there comes a question into maybe the practice habits that Doug Pederson has. I'm not going to say he trains them too hard. There's no reports of this. I'm just going to make an assumption, though, that the injuries didn't really start until Doug Pederson became our head coach. And you must think that maybe, as much as there's a chance that we have just had absolutely terrible strength and conditioning and medical staff, there could be something to the way that Doug Pederson does things. So either way, we're sitting at this point right now in 2020 where just as of I'm recording this today, Carson Wentz was benched, and they decided to start Jalen Hurts. And it becomes more evident now that it's a lost season, and all of this, where there's smoke, there's fire about Doug Pederson not being our head coach next year. It makes you think, well, if that does play out, like who are some people that Philadelphia can legitimately consider to come in and be their next head coach and take this team into the future? But most importantly, and at this point, the biggest priority is fixing Carson Wentz. Philadelphia has made a $100 million commitment to a guy who we saw in 2017, not so much in 2018, but hell, in 2019, look every bit of a franchise quarterback. And the question kind of comes down to the segment of fans that think maybe the Clowney hit, all that stuff going on, the wires got crossed up there, and Wentz is what he is now, like a shell-shocked quarterback. Or was it something to do with the coaching? Did he regress under the coaching? The quarterback coach, Press Taylor, Doug Pederson, not having someone like Frank Reich, not having someone like John DeFilippo, who were all here in 2017 when we saw the best Wentz, peak Carson Wentz. So that's kind of how I came up with my head coach shortlist. Is some of them are guys that I think could be good head coaches, but the biggest thing that I was looking for all of these candidates I'm going to kind of lay out here is, can you fix this offense? Can you fix Carson Wentz? So without further ado, we'll start at 5 and work our way up to number 1. They're not necessarily really ranked per se, but I was happy with this order that I did. So at number 5, we're going to look and talk about Lincoln Riley, the head coach of the Oklahoma Sooners, 3-time Big 12 champion, pretty much just so far craps out Heisman Trophy winners. He's a quarterback whisperer in college. Baker Mayfield, as a Texas Tech transfer, turned him into a Heisman first overall pick. Kyler Murray, very doubts, right? Small. There's no way he's going to be that good, even though he's really good at high school. Ended up turning him into, Heisman, first round pick. Even Jalen Hurts. So, like, every one of these quarterbacks have been around the Heisman and have ended up drafted maybe, at the very least, you could say higher than expected. And you would at least put some of that success onto the fact that Lincoln Riley knows how to work quarterbacks. He knows how to fix quarterbacks. He knows how to maximize the strengths of all these quarterbacks, which is exactly what we need with Carson Wentz. He has a modern-day offense. A lot of people are comparing him to be the next Sean McVay, the next Kyle Shanahan. Those are the young, buzzworthy names that people want to try to get the next version of. There would be a nice silver lining that it seems like Dallas has kind of been hard-pressed to get Lincoln Riley. And if he comes to Philadelphia, that's just a little bit of like a, tongue-in-cheek. We got him. He didn't go to you guys. It came to us. But there's a reason why he's at number 5. One is that, it seems like Oklahoma is his dream job. He's had no hints that he wants to move to the NFL. But I would say if there was a year that there was a coveted, coach from college that you wanted to jump ship, it'd be now, because I truly do believe with all the COVID restrictions, probably recruiting is not going to be fun. It's not going to be something that you want to do versus, say, when you're just at least in the NFL and you're only really managing your team that's in the building. There's not a lot of outside stuff. So I feel like with everything, this crazy world right now, college football, not getting full seasons, all that stuff, it could be the time for a coach that may want to try something new, that has always kind of been like, I don't really want to go to the NFL. Now could be the time, especially for someone like Lincoln Riley. Now, if there's a negative for Lincoln Riley, it might be a little too soon for Philadelphia to go back to a college coach. Chip Kelly was only our coach a year. Like, you look at the history of the Eagles coaches. We went college coach, didn't work. Doug Pederson, going right back to a college coach, could be making the same mistake. At least it could be enough of a similarity that Philadelphia Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie, he's probably not, he's burned before, so he might not want to make that jump yet again. But Lincoln Riley and Chip Kelly were completely different. Chip Kelly was, it was a gimmick. It worked very well at Oregon, and it worked well early in Philadelphia. But Chip Kelly did come in with kind of a gimmick around him, and then it fizzled out. Like Chip Kelly, high-tempo offense. Put it right in line with, unfortunately, it looks like the Ravens offense when it was peaking with Lamar Jackson, or the Wildcat way back with Sperano and the Miami Dolphins. So they are different, very different coaching prospects between Lincoln Riley and Chip Kelly. But the reason why he comes in at 5 is just, there's all inclinations that he wants to stay at Oklahoma, and I don't know if Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie will want to jump back into a college coach that quickly. Number 4 on my list is Pep Hamilton, the quarterback coach for the LA Chargers. Positives: he was the offensive coordinator for 3 years in Indianapolis under Andrew Luck. He followed Andrew Luck from Stanford. They had the 14th ranked offense when Andrew Luck was a rookie. This is based on just like points, yards and points, like just an average between the two. They had the 6th ranked offense in his second year, and then his third year with injuries, they had the 24th ranked offense, and hasn't had a offensive coordinator job since then. For whatever it is worth, when he was in the XFL, he was easily the best play caller and coach in the XFL. The development this year of Justin Herbert is really what puts his name on my list. Because Justin Herbert, I like Justin Herbert coming out of Oregon, but he had a lot of deficiencies. A lot of things that made you think, there's a reason why he probably fell to 6. There's a reason why they have Tyrod Taylor. And yeah, if any quarterback from this year's draft class needed that redshirt year, that was of the big 3, him, Tua, and Joe Burrow, might have been, outside of Tua's injury, you might have been more inclined to say Justin Herbert needed that to develop and get rid of some of those deficiencies and bad habits that he had at Oregon. And then, boom, he gets thrown to the Wolves sooner than later for the Chargers. And, outside of this bad game that they're coming off against the Patriots, he's probably been the offensive rookie of the year. So the work that he has done with Justin Herbert makes me very, very intrigued about what he could do with Carson Wentz, and the fact that he has the background with Andrew Luck. I mean, he's had his hand in some of the most talented quarterbacks, young quarterbacks that we've ever seen over the last 12 years or so in the NFL. So the negative, I guess, for Pep Hamilton is he's a quarterback coach. That is he's skipping a step there. So my dream scenario, if Philadelphia does decide to keep Doug Pederson, is to lure away Pep Hamilton and make him the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. But to get a big OC hire like that, one thing has to change right away, and that is something that a lot of people want. Doug Pederson has to give up his play calling ability, because even with the whole anti-Mike Groh, we got to get rid of Mike Groh. Philly was never going to be in a position to get one of the top-tier offensive coordinators, because top-tier offensive coordinators want to call their own plays. And we weren't going to get Jay Gruden. That's why he went to Jacksonville. Because why are they going to come here? Good OCs want to go to become head coaches. And you're not going to get that become a head coach until you get the ability to call plays. So Doug Pederson, to get someone like Pep Hamilton, would definitely have to relinquish his play calling, which is good. That is a win. You get a guy that has worked with Andrew Luck, quarterback very similar to Carson Wentz. He has developed Justin Herbert from one of the rawest players from last year's draft class into, with Justin Jefferson, the offensive rookie of the year conversation. And from a play calling standpoint, for whatever it's worth, I mean, he was a hell of a play caller in the XFL. Very small, it's a very small sample size, I suppose. But Frank Reich, as much as Frank Reich now, in hindsight, we can look back upon wow, he was incredible, the things he did in Philadelphia. But you gotta remember, the reason why Frank Reich came to Philadelphia is because he was god-awful with Phillip Rivers and the Chargers. He got fired as the OC from the Chargers when they were historically a bottom defense. I remember when Philly hired Frank Reich, I was like, what? Why did we make this hire? Because it wasn't particularly sexy at the time. And I feel like someone, maybe like Pep Hamilton, especially at least when you bring up the play calling ability from, it's been a while since he's handled those responsibilities with Andrew Luck in Indianapolis. And then his most recent body of work was the XFL. That's why he's at 4. That's why he's at 4 on this list. But I think a dream scenario is Doug Pederson kind of moves into like a Mike Tomlin role where Doug Pederson can use his strengths, which are, team building, which are like within the locker room. Doug Pederson is a hell of a player's coach. He can get everyone to play with him. If there's an injury and stuff, he can find a way to persevere through injuries and get the most out of players that, necessarily aren't the most talented. We've seen it. The way he's made the playoffs the last couple of years. But his play calling's bad. His scheming is not particularly good. Someone like Pep Hamilton, that is the dream hire. That actually, right now, out of all these names I'm going to go through, I think that's my preferred situation. Keep Doug Pederson, but bring in Pep Hamilton to be the play caller and quarterback coach to Carson Wentz. So number 3 on my list is a very all or nothing type move. And that is Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator from the Carolina Panthers. Dude is like 3 years older than me. So I can see there being issues, but he was the man behind the best college offense ever, 2019 LSU Tigers. He's one of the best play callers already in his first year in the NFL with the Carolina Panthers. You see the Carolina Panthers offense, they have Teddy Bridgewater, who's been placeholder quarterback, game manager quarterback, and he's airing the ball out. They are maximizing Robbie Anderson, who came over as like upper mid-tier free agent signing, and he was playing like for the first part of the season, top 5 wide receiver statistically. You're seeing DJ Moore be very legit. You're seeing Curtis Samuel used in a way that he's never been used before, and now he's one of the most dynamic utility players in the NFL. And they're doing all of these things without the best all-purpose back in the NFL, Chris McCaffrey. They've had McCaffrey, 2-3 games? Able to fill in Mike Davis, get Mike Davis moving the ball well. Their offensive line, they lost their franchise tackle, Russell Okung, who they traded away their best guard for in Trey Turner. So this has been an offense that's had their own adversity and really has no reason to be good. Has no reason to be able to move the ball the way that they do. And that is all because I think Joe Brady is truly an excellent play caller. And you just saw night and day. Obviously, the talent has left LSU, but LSU is a shadow of its former self. And what was the biggest change? Joe Brady left. And I think you also kind of need to consider with Joe Brady, too, is Joe Burrow, in his second to last year at LSU, he was an Ohio State transfer that was just kind of a stopgap quarterback for LSU. But what Joe Brady was able to do to manipulate and develop Joe Burrow into the most single greatest college season I've ever seen, like that is worth merit to me. That also kind of goes onto the side that Joe Brady can develop quarterbacks. He's a little bit of a quarterback whisperer. Teddy Bridgewater is having a career year with no Christian McCaffrey. There's something to it. So the negative is with Joe Brady, the experience. It would be a big risk. I think it'd probably be a year too early. You would ideally like 2 to 3 years with Joe Brady as an OC in the NFL before you give him a head coaching job. But somewhat similarly, people said the same thing about Sean McVay. It was too early to poach him away from the Washington football team and make him, I said, yeah, I almost said it, but I didn't say it, to become a head coach of the Rams. It was a lot of people criticizing. He's too young, doesn't have the experience. And as much as I still will never get over Sean McVay beating Doug Pederson for Coach of the Year in 2017, McVay is, any way you cut it, a top 10 coach. So it's a gamble. It is a very big gamble to consider Joe Brady at this point. I personally would say it might be a year too early, but in the end, if Joe Brady is going to be the next big offensive head coach in the NFL, wouldn't you rather maybe be a year early versus a year too late? Number 2 on my list. I kind of had this as a 2A, 2B. Joe Brady was 2B because I really, I have positives and negatives for each that kind of balance it out. But number 2, I'd say, is Brian Daboll, the offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. First positive, he's Canadian. But also, he has a Patriots Alabama background, so very similar to Joe Judge, who very much, even myself, criticized it. Looks to be a pretty good head coach hire, at least this early on, for the New York Giants. He has 3 years as the Buffalo Bills OC. Easily right now, 2020 is his best year. They have a top 10 offense for the Buffalo Bills. The biggest thing for Brian Daboll being here is his play calling this year is very good. I would say generally offensively, the Buffalo Bills, one of the best ran offenses in the NFL, but the development of Josh Allen, again, understanding that the biggest priority for whatever coach comes in for the Philadelphia Eagles is, can you fix Carson Wentz? Well, Josh Allen looked broken. Josh Allen looked like an absolute bust. Looked like he couldn't hit the broadside of the barn. They saw really zero development in Josh Allen from his time at Wyoming to 2 years in with the Buffalo Bills, but it seems to all click now. And Brian Daboll is the man that's at least, the big face attached to that success of Josh Allen. And I really do feel like when you watch the Buffalo Bills offensively, that's how we should be running in Philadelphia. Obviously, we don't have a Stephon Diggs. And that's a big thing. I can't understate that enough. Adding a legitimate separator, a legitimate wide receiver one in Stephon Diggs very much helped out everybody in Buffalo. Help out Dabble and his resume now as he goes to potentially become a head coach this offseason. Helps out Josh Allen's development. But you could still see with Josh Allen, he's putting it together. Someone has been able to get into that head, rewire some things, and you're seeing a guy that is very much played like a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. And I feel like while I'm hesitant because Dabble has had some inconsistent years, average years before 2020, you have to worry that maybe he's just a one-year wonder. I think the advantage that Buffalo, how they run their offense, would almost be day and night. How, Philly, day and night doesn't make sense, but how the Bills offense right now is essentially what Philadelphia wants to be. Run the ball, have some balance, run your quarterback, have some balance, play action, have some balance, have some gadget plays, have some, everything about the way the Buffalo Bills that I've seen 4 or 5 full Bills games. Outside the one against Kansas City, I was like, this is what it should look like in Philadelphia. So for that's why I give credit to Dabble, and I think that he's definitely a name to consider. And I think if you can get past the worry of him being a one-year wonder, you focus on what he's done with Josh Allen and reclamating the project of Carson Wentz. He's a very, very high name, but he's not the number one name. Because my number one name is Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. First of all, his dad's a billionaire. So I'm sure there's a positive in it. I'm sure there's a whole, he doesn't do this for the money. And I'm not saying that there is, that's a motivate. I mean, more so for players, that's something. But I don't know. Maybe there's something about coaches doing everything to preserve their job because they need it. That's their job. They need the income. But then again, they're making so much money. I don't know. But his dad's a billionaire. That's cool, right? But Arthur Smith, he's been the Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator for 2 years. And last year, it was a top 10 offense. And this year, it's a top 3 offense. Even though they've kind of been a little flat as of late, still get a look at the whole season as a whole. He's learned under Mike Vrabel, who is kind of the best, not really, Bill Belichick disciple. Even though Mike Vrabel clearly did not come off directly that Bill Belichick coaching tree, he's a Belichick guy through and through. And you can see it the way he coaches, the way he kind of he's always trying to find, remember the whole thing where you delay a game and stuff just to kill the clock? All these little advantages and stuff. That is so Bill Belichick. And obviously it's going to take shape in the way that Arthur Smith, who's most likely to become a head coach sooner or later, he's going to be able to take that. And that's something that I definitely want in a head coach. It has a little bit of all or nothing that we see in Mike Vrabel, that we kind of loved Doug Pederson for, fearless Doug Pederson. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to see that in Doug Pederson the last couple of years. He commits to the run game with Derrick Henry. What is the best skill position player on the Philadelphia Eagles right now that's never used? Miles Sanders. The run game cannot get established here in Philadelphia, and Arthur Smith is a man that loves to establish the run. So it already, one of his biggest facets of his offense would be maximizing an underutilized player in Philadelphia. He developed a second-round pick in A.J. Brown into a bona fide wide receiver one. So we've seen him be able to take a player that maybe should have been considered a first-round player. I remember at the beginning of 2 years ago, A.J. Brown was wide receiver one on all the scout sites. And then he kind of got nitpicked throughout the year. And then eventually at the draft slipped into the second round. And Arthur Smith has been this guy's clearly an absolute baller. Let's put him in position to make plays. And now you're seeing A.J. Brown become one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. So that success could parlay into Jalen Reagor. Jalen Reagor was a very high investment guy with kind of niche skill sets that I think someone like Arthur Smith would be able to maximize their strengths and make them into a bona fide 1,000-yard receiver. Obviously, there's a lot of assumption there, but the similarities can't be ignored. Another similarity, he saved Corey Davis. Corey Davis was very good coming out of Western Michigan. Record holder, all that stuff. And for me, in my money, he was wide receiver one that year. And then, he's kind of fizzled. His first 2 years was 99 catches, 1,200 yards, 4 touchdowns, 55% completion percentage. In his 2 years with Arthur Smith, 96 catches, 1,400 yards, 6 touchdowns, 69% catch percentage. So Arthur Smith has been able to take a player in Corey Davis a lot of people have written off, a lot of people considered a bust, and he was able to tinker things, able to find different ways that he can make plays on his offense. And now Corey Davis is either going to get paid big time money by the Titans or go to free agency and get big time money because he was able to untap that potential. Is there a player that Philadelphia on the wide receiver side drafted really high that hasn't done shit? Wasn't DK Metcalf that we got. It was someone else. Can't remember their name, but there's similarities there, right? And the biggest thing is he fixed Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill left the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, he had Adam Gase and everything there, and the talent in Miami was never amazing. But Ryan Tannehill basically went to Tennessee as it almost felt like a salary dump in a way from Miami. Like Miami had no use for him. It felt like, Tennessee was still holding on to Mariota. And then out of nowhere, Tannehill started playing well. And then now Tannehill is one of the, at least you could say, one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the NFL. Ryan Tannehill's completion percentage has jumped 5%. That is massive for the amount of football that he has played and started since he's been under Arthur Smith. He's 1 touchdown right now from a career year this year. So when you look as the top of the pyramid, the top factor that you need in a new head coach, it's to fix Carson Wentz. And there is no candidate that is available out there right now that has the body of work more so than Arthur Smith. So for my money, looking just at what he's been able to do in Tennessee, the salvage job that he's able to do in Tennessee, I mean, Philly doesn't have a Derrick Henry, but I think the similarities for what he was able to fix in Tennessee and what he would have to fix in Philadelphia is enough for me to say confidently he is my number 1 head coaching candidate. But I will have to say, above all, to end the video, I still think I would rather keep Doug Pederson and bring in someone like Pep Hamilton as my number 1 option. But if Doug Pederson's stubborn and that doesn't work out, Arthur Smith's the guy. Arthur Smith is going to be the guy that can come in and fix Carson Wentz. And that is the most important thing. Fix that $100 million investment that now, as of about to be the Saints game, sitting on the bench. So let me know what you guys think. Is there any head coach candidate that I did not talk about that you think absolutely should be in consideration for the Philadelphia Eagles? Let me know in the comment section below. That does it for me. I have I got my little schedule here. I got 2 more Eagles type videos that will be coming out next week. So if you guys like this kind of content, I know a lot of the Eagle fans that do watch me and support me do. That'll be coming to your sub boxes hopefully sooner than later. But thank you guys for watching. As always, first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button if you enjoyed this video. It helps the video in the old YouTube algorithm. And I'll see you guys back here on the next one. Peace out.